And this is Houston Newsmakers Extra. I'm talking with Congressman Michael McCaul, 10th Congressional District, a huge district, a lot of people, 13 counties. We're talking about foreign policy. You're not really thrilled about the foreign policy of this country right now. What would you do differently?
Well, you know, the first president I had the opportunity to vote for was Reagan. Peace through strength. What I worry about is we're projecting weakness, not strength. And I say that because when Afghanistan fell, it was very clear. It was a signal that America is not projecting power that we normally do and strength. And so what we saw, the satellite imageries of the Russian Federation moving in, and then Communist China threatening the Pacific. And I was in Taiwan, by the way. Met with the president of Taiwan, and I got briefed by our military when I landed, and they said there are 10 battleships surrounding the island, aircraft carriers, 70 fighter jets, and then I got sanctioned by the Chinese Communist Party. It shows you how aggressive and hostile. And I think after Afghanistan, it really emboldened and empowered our adversaries. And it's making our foreign policy in the world a more dangerous place. And that's what I am tasked to do as chairman of Foreign Affairs. Your Foreign Affairs Committee, one of many going on right now in Congress. The Republicans are in charge of the House. Right now, your party doesn't look anything like what it used to look like. I mean, we're telling before when we were off air here, I'm a hardcore independent. Your party I miss the Republican Party that I used to know. How do you? Well, as I mentioned, I had lunch with George Bush and Laura, Kenny Buckport, my wife, and we talked about our party and the state of our party and where is our party going. Our party is Ronald Reagan, peace through strength. We're not isolationists. You go back to 1939. There was a wing in our party in 1939, very isolationist, did not want to defend, Hitler, right? And it's always been there. I just think leadership's important right now. And the good news I can tell you is that the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, and me as the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee all believe that the United States should lead the world and not shrink from our responsibilities.
Last thing before I let you go, the former president who's been indicted now 4 times is leading in the polls in the Republican Party for the nomination. And polls show that a lot of the Republicans still believe that he was robbed of the election, that a lot of his problems from these indictments stem from him saying that the election was stolen. What do you tell your constituents who may still believe that about the election in 2020 and whether or not it was stolen or not, and was it fair and we need to move on?
Well, there's the legal side and the political side. On the legal side, I voted for certification because our job in the Congress is not to nominate the president. Our job is to authenticate and count the state electoral ballots, right? Unlike 1870, when you had 2 ballots going up and Congress did object to one, we only had 1 slate of ballots from all the states. My responsibility is the Constitution primarily. I think that was the right vote, and I'm very proud of that vote. But on the political side, every time with the Russian collusion issue, I was a federal prosecutor at Maine Justice, and it's sad to me that they had no predication to open that case, according to the Durham report, right? There was no predication on the Russian collusion case. So I think the American people have lost faith and confidence in our institutions. So every time these indictments come down, I think it actually, from a political standpoint, Trump's numbers go up. Now, on the DA side, which is they're more elected political, very different from the federal indictments.
But the point is whether or not election was fair and that President Biden is the fair and elected president of the United States. Is that in fact true or not?
I agree with Attorney General Barr, who said that, well, in his words, it was very candid about look, fraud takes place in every elections. However, was it significant enough to overturn it? Our job is to authenticate and count the votes from the states. It's all about states' rights. It's all about the Constitution. Founding fathers didn't want Congress, anointing the President of the United States.
See, what you're doing now is if you give somebody room to say, yeah, Trump is right, the election was stolen, then we still have this discord going on. Somebody's got to stand up and say, you know what, like the Attorney General Barr said, BS, it was a fair election, let's move on. Unless you and Congress people like you don't say that, we're never going to get out of this.
Look, I mean, the peaceful transition of power is the greatest thing about democracy. I'll never forget when President Obama gave his inaugural address. I was in the rotunda of the Capitol watching George Bush and Obama walking together, just the two of them, and Secret Service, and I happened to be there, maybe like Forrest Gump, I don't know, but they went outside the Capitol, and Bush got on the helicopter, and it was a peaceful transition of power. That's what's great about our democracy. It's not a military dictatorship like we see in some of these countries in Africa and Latin America. That's what's great about America, is that we have a peaceful transition of power.
Well, I tried. Congressman Michael McCaul, 10th Congressional District, 13 counties. You have a lot of space that you have to cover. I know you got to get to College Station today. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
This is Houston Newsmakers Extra. Share it with everybody you know.